All right, welcome to Literary Deep Dives and Discussions with me, A.L. Liskey, the author of the Unseen Operative series. Today I am joined by Benedict Mailhot. I totally just butchered that. You're going to have to tell me it again.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Benedict Mailhot.
Benedict
Yeah.
Mailhot. All right, and he is the author of a book called The Prophecy, which is turning into a series, and I'm very excited to talk to him about the book. There it is. So introduce yourself a little bit, Benedict. Tell us about where you come from and a little bit about your author journey.
I live in rural Maine, and it's like relatively quiet around here and definitely not industrial or like full of tech or anything. I started writing when I was 14 and then published when I was 15. When I started writing, I did not have any experience or anything. I just kind of had an idea. I thought about like, what if this was a TV show or a movie or comic book or something. I couldn't do any of that for various reasons, but then I thought, what if I turned it into a book? And I'd been reading a lot of really good books that I really liked and like long series that were really well thought out and like put together and had a lot of characters. And with more and more ideas growing, I just decided, well, it looks like I'm going to write it. So then I just, as a New Year's resolution in 2024, I just said, well, I'm going to write a book, even though I did not have any practice before. I just kind of started and then kept going through the whole, like I just wrote on paper and then tried to learn how to do it on computer, which since I couldn't type, I had to use a text to speech to actually get the whole story digitalized. The whole thing was a learning curve because I could only really see like one step ahead at a time. When I was writing, I was like, okay, I'm going to publish. I don't know what publishing is like. I don't know what publishers are. I'm just going to get there when I get there. That's kind of how it all started, I guess. The writing part, anyways.
Nice. I like that. It's a very impromptu thing, but it also shows you that, New Year's resolutions do work. So there's some
Yes,
proof there.
uncommonly.
Yeah. Um, so you mentioned that you read a lot of series that you really liked. Tell me
Yeah.
about those that inspired you.
I'd say the biggest book inspiration for my book was Keeper of the Lost Cities, done by Shannon Messenger. It's currently a 9 book series, and they're all like really, really big books, like 800 pages typically. But I just loved the way how she came up with a lot of characters. And even though the series was long and there was like consistencies, like, very similar things happening, it was never boring. It was always like really entertaining, and she just kept putting more in the story, putting more characters in the story, making up subplots and things. I just really loved the way that like she made a really big fantasy book series that was really good. I kind of looked up to that and thought, well, since I've got 100 ideas swimming around right now, maybe I could try my hand at that. Honestly, that was probably the only book series that I remember right now. I finished reading the 9th one the week I started writing, so it's like right off the bat.
That's a really good way to finish a series. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
most of the time we finish a series and we're kind of like, oh my goodness, what do I do now with my life? But you just jump right into writing and there you go. Well, I can
Yeah.
say at your age, I was heavily inspired as well by thicker books. I write thick books, so
Nice.
it's nice to hear that
Yeah.
there's still an audience for that. Because so many readers look at my book and they say this is intimidating. I don't want to read it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you have no idea how great this is. But yeah,
Yeah.
thick books, they have so much to them, and they interweave so many delicate things that it is quite impressive to be able to read those and to aspire to write them. Are you hoping someday
Yeah.
to write something like that?
My first book, Prophecy, which is currently my only one, it's like 400 pages long and about that thick, so not as thick as the Keeper ones or anything. I do intend on eventually maybe getting them as big as that, or even maybe as big as yours, because actually just got it. It's really long. I just started, but it's already really good.
Oh, thanks.
But I'm gonna say more about that later. So I've written my second book, and it is 500 pages this time, and then I'm writing my third one, Prophecy 3. That is, I don't know how long it's gonna be, but I intend it on being at least like 600 or 700 pages. So far they're increasingly getting bigger. Yeah,
Awesome.
and
I love that.
yeah. A funny thing happened, to circle back to what you're saying about people being intimidated. One time, like it was a few weeks after I released my first books, and one of the kids that read it walked up to me and said, "Your book is too big. I can't read it." And I was like, "I'll take that as a compliment."
Yes. Yeah, there's, I don't know, sometimes I feel like readers nowadays are getting kind of wimpy, but if you get the right crowd that are what I call the
Yeah.
true deep readers, they will look at those thick books and they'll say that's nothing.
Yeah. And I'm sure Brandon Sanderson readers think that way.
Oh, yeah. Classical readers as well. Like a lot of classical literature is thicker. So, I mean, that is
Yeah.
my main audience is folks that like classical literature. So, I just, it seems to be a dying breed, but we'll find them.
Yeah.
Okay, so your book, I've yet to read it. I'm still waiting to move to Missouri, have a proper address for it, but I might
Yeah.
expedite that. So tell us a little bit about the premise of the book.
I guess I'm going to start from the beginning here because it's got a bit of a history. So it all started back when I was 9. We just moved into our new house, and I really liked making things out of Legos. And I kind of just made 5 little like superhero characters and kept them for years, just kind of making up little stories about them. None of the stories really lasted more than a month or something, but it was the characters that did. And so ultimately, my book ended up being character driven. Like when I started, I all I had was the characters basically. So then I started trying to make up a plot because every book needs a plot, obviously. Honestly, I don't really remember entirely where the whole plot came from, but it was partially influenced by things going on in the world at the time. I'm not going to spoil anything, but here's like a brief explanation. So it starts with the main character Theo, and he just wakes up in a tower with a mind erasinator machine thing over his head. He has absolutely no memory of who he is or who he used to be. That's how it like kind of starts. And then throughout the book, he doesn't know who he is, but he meets some friends and starts just trying to implement himself into the world, which in it's a far future, like futuristic city. Half the book is just him kind of learning what the world is and the origins of the characters, I guess. And then the other half, he finds some information about the antagonist called the Illusioner, and so he goes on like a bit of a little spy mission with one of his friends, Don, to a shady casino that is actually a secret base to the Illusioner. But the premise of the book is that he's trying to find his place, and the antagonist, really shady. I didn't want to reveal too much of his grand scheme in the first book because it's like laying the ground of the series. But the antagonist's goal is to remind the world of the ancient times, which is just all the years before the year 4000, because there was an apocalypse at that time, and the illusioner and his agency think that if the world doesn't remember what happened, then it's doomed to repeat it, which was like kind of it was something that I'd been exploring a lot at the time. That seems like a pretty reasonable goal, but his problem is that he's not willing to stop at anything to achieve the goal,
Mm.
including like abusing people and stuff like that. I guess that's kind of like the basic plot of it. Since it's just the first book, that's like the laying the groundwork, the framework and stuff.
That is utterly fantastic. I love that so much. Like I'm drawing
Thanks.
parallels already in my mind to my own series. They both take place in
Oh,
the
nice.
4000s, so there's that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the premise that, not all antagonists, not all bad guys are just pure evil and they want to do bad things. They usually have good
Yeah.
motives. They just go about it in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's kind of the major theme that I want to play for my antagonists in the series. I mean, I haven't really gotten into the feel of like their personal problems with it, but I do want to explore that a little more in the third book and going forward. But that's the thing, like in real life, not everyone is exactly evil or exactly good. There's a lot of grayness about it all. Like you can't think of it in terms of black and white. Everything's gray. Sometimes it'll be lighter grays like the better people. Sometimes it's darker grays like the worst people. And typically motivations can be a good or at least semi good thing. The way you do it has to be questioned.
I actually just recorded a single podcast. I probably won't come out till March because I want to focus on featuring my indie authors like yourself.
Yeah.
But the premise of that podcast when it comes out is doing the right thing for the right reasons with the right authority. Because as much as
Yeah.
we want to do the right thing, sometimes either we don't know what the right thing is or we're not actually the right people to do it. So there's always, like you said,
Yeah.
that grayness of I need to question what is and what is proper.
That's the major antagonist role in my book. They're trying to do something kind of good, but not the right way. And then the characters are going to try to resist it. But then it's like, if they're trying to do something good, should you entirely resist it? but like, how do you protect people from the dangerous guys who are trying to do the thing in a bad way? So it's a bit of a difficult situation for my characters.
Very much. I'm excited to see how that plays out. That is such a powerful thing to look into.
Yeah, and I have no idea where the plot started. It just kind of did, I guess.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, my first draft had nothing to do with the antagonist at all. I don't even know if I had an antagonist at the time. Like, I wrote down a part of the first draft in a notebook and instantly looked at it and realized, you know what? I'm going to start over completely. I'm going to keep the characters and nothing else. But hey, I hear that's how drafts are supposed to go.
I mean, from my perspective, yes, I never intended to write a fiction book. I started it one day, got 4 chapters in. I thought this is trash. I wrote the book. Then I trashed the entire book, rewrote it, and kind of like you're saying, I didn't actually know where the plot was going. If I showed anybody the original manuscript of the Lattice Scheme, it is nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like something hits you, it takes over, and it just kind of guides you to where it's supposed to go.
I think that's actually very similar to how it went for me, I'd say.
Yeah. So, how many books are you predicting are going to be in this series?
There's kind of like two answers to that. When I started it, I was very inspired by The Keeper of the Lost Cities, as I said, and how it had 9 and is going to have 10 books. And so I aimed for 10 books, and so far I've gotten enough ideas that I think I'll be able to pull that off. But then this was kind of like in the past year, I started thinking about writing books that aren't necessarily in the prophecy series. I had ideas for a fantasy one, outer space science fiction one, and like a modern day one. But then I also decided like there were some themes and things in prophecy that I thought were maybe worth being reused. And so I got the idea that at least most of the books I write will be in eventually will be in a multiverse to prophecy. Like, I want to hint at little similarities. Like, I might mention a character last name that was first said in prophecy or something, or like there's a couple events that are really similar. But at the same time, those books could still be standalones. Prophecy series, 10 books. Ultimately, everything will be interconnected.
I like that. That's a huge, like, beautiful web that you're weaving. I get that as well. Like, as authors, we start in a certain way and sometimes even just in a certain genre. And then as the years go by, we kind of meander into other things. I may have mentioned, like, I'm a
Yeah.
nonfiction writer. So I've always written nonfiction theology. And now I'm coming into the fiction world. It's completely different. And yet, like, even in
Yeah.
that, I kind of want to explore different avenues. What is your ultimate, like, goal or vision in being an author?
I'd say my ultimate goal would be just make good books and series that can maybe impact the world in a positive way. Obviously, I want to make fun, creative stories that people will hopefully have a lot of fun enjoying, and hopefully it'll like brighten their day. Like, I want my book to be something people can come back to if they're feeling down or whatever. But at the same time, I want it to have like not super obvious lessons, and I want to try to teach the truth of the world through it. Like, for example, in the third book that I'm writing, one of the characters is like finding and accepting the truth, because like it's not the truth he wished it was, but he knows he can't change it. He can't just choose to be someone else, as a lot of people in the world nowadays seem like they can think. I think it'll be the first major theme that I try to teach. But overall, I want the whole series to try to teach people some of the truths about the world, and I'll have like hidden Christian themes the way that Narnia does or something. Like, maybe not as obviously as Narnia, but a little subtler. And also, I kind of hope to inspire more people to explore the arts and try to make something beautiful and new and maybe even write it. And I hope that I can inspire them to do that while writing cleanly and in the way that God would want them to,
Hmm.
because I think that needs to be said around these times.
I completely agree. It's a very necessary thing, um, which does lead to ask, how does your faith impact your writing?
First and foremost, when I published my first book and realized that I had made a story, an adventure that the world could see and read, I realized that it was such a blessing to be able to have articulated my ideas and come up with a story and figured out all the ways to actually make it happen. Honestly, in the past few weeks, not a day goes by that I don't thank him for that, because I mean, everyone's got their gifts, and when you have a gift, it's usually a pretty wonderful thing. Since he gave me that gift, I feel like I should try to thank him for it by trying to help the people in the world to see him a little better, or a lot better, hopefully. Whenever I see an opportunity to incorporate the things he's taught us about the world, I'm going to try to take it. I'm not going to be writing something that all the characters are necessarily going to Catholic Church in, but I want to incorporate as many good Christian themes as I can in a like kind of for fun science fiction series. It's kind of something that's a little hard to explain, but that's the best I can say about it right now.
I'd say you articulated that very well. That's very much what I am
Thanks.
attempting to do with my series. And I love that you brought
Oh,
up
nice.
Narnia, because C.S. Lewis is a huge inspiration to me, the way that he
Yeah.
interweaves those themes in there, but also J.R.R. Tolkien with The Lord of the Rings. Like, even if you're
Yeah,
not Christian,
definitely.
you watch those movies, you read those books, and you get so much out of it.
Hey, maybe it'll inspire you to start looking into Christianity. Even though the story wasn't overtly saying go to church, it might inspire you, or maybe someone Christian recommended it to you, and then you'll say, "Hey, I think I might be interested in what you believe."
It's all about planting those seeds.
Yeah, planting the seeds, the mustard seeds.
With being a Christian writer, there obviously comes a bit of a dilemma in that a lot of folks will kind of oppose that, or they'll be opposed to reading your book just because of that.
Yeah.
There's a huge debate right now, at least on the Threads community and the Facebook community, as to what a Christian author is versus an author who is Christian. Do you differentiate the two much?
I don't quite know. That's kind of a strange debate, I gotta say. I suppose a Christian writer would probably be exploring Christian themes in their book, maybe in the way that we are, or maybe in the way that Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were. Honestly, I guess from my point of view, I don't really see a huge difference between the two. At most, super related.
Yeah, I've always, for myself, I think it's an interesting articulation. The two stances that folks are living in is that one is that you are writing Christian themes, and the other is that you're not, but you do go to church. And for me, I don't, I mean, being the kind of Christian that I am, I can't write and not somehow include something about truth in there.
Yeah.
Don't know if some people can. So that is something I'm going to be exploring with other Christian indie authors.
That's interesting. I guess I'd say that if someone's Christian and they're writing a book, if the book is about like the good things that God has taught the world, like just good things in the world, I'd say that they're writing in a Christian way.
It's all about, values, principles, and what you're putting out there. Let's circle back down to your book a little bit. You mentioned that
Okay.
you didn't have a plot line, that you just kind of came up with it after the characters. What was your process of creating that?
I had the idea of the main character, Theo, being like a secret agent of the Illusioner's agency, but my whole vision for the story is that it started with him kind of having like a second chance after having his mind erased and forgetting who he used to be. With that, it was kind of like throughout the story, he used to be roped in with the things that the Illusioners and his agency were doing, but he had to rediscover it and choose for himself whether or not it was right. None of the other characters knew anything about the Illusioner, so when Theo came into their life, they kind of just like realized something's going on and it looks like we're going to have to be a part of it, especially because no one else knows what's going on here. We're the only ones who could possibly prevent it. And then with the plot being Theo rediscovering parts of his past and the Illusioner and what his plans are, I didn't want it to be like an overtly like this villain's gonna blow up the city kind of thing, because I wanted to explore the themes of moral grayness, parts that are right, parts that are wrong. Because like in my story, the entire world has forgotten all the mistakes they've made in the ancient times. And so with the Illusioner saying you need to learn from your mistakes, you can't run for them, it's like that is pretty good advice for anyone, but there is a wrong way of doing that if you're willing to hurt people or abuse them or destroy things, then something has to be said. Your motivation, sure, it's great. Even if it's harder to do things the right way, you should still do it. And something that Theo says in the book is, even if you do fail in saving the people from their ignorance, that doesn't mean you should resort to hurting them to try to do that. In the book, he makes the decision, I'm going to choose the harder way. It might fail, but it's the right thing to do. I can't hurt anyone to accomplish this. Kind of like the hero redeeming himself and figuring out the truth of the situation and the best way to handle it.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite line or passage in the book?
Technically, this isn't in the book yet. It will be in the third one. But one of my characters, Amy, she has an identical twin, Ashley, and the two of them had lived on an island their entire life, being homeschooled and stuff. So I kind of explored the theme of me being homeschooled all my life. And then one day when the government makes a mandate that everyone has to attend the public school system, the Beacon City Academy, they go, and then book 1 and 2, they're at the academy, and there isn't a whole lot of focus on the twins in the first 2 books, but there are a couple chapters where they're starting to clash with their parents, because their parents, they don't want them at the school, let alone like out in the city anywhere else. But the twins start to make friends with Theo and the others, but the parents don't want them to be out in the city because it's dangerous for them, because they have abilities that the city is willing to like destroy for, because they are afraid of abilities. Tension starts to build up between the twins and their parents throughout the 2 books, and then in the third book they end up finally going head to head in it, and I plan on the situation getting really heated. There's a lot of feelings, but and nobody's stopping and trying to think it all the way through, because everyone's having really big emotions about it. But Amy, the cooler, more calm and collected twin, is going to end up saying this: family is everything, though that doesn't mean that friends are nothing. Your family is the most important thing in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be friendless and completely shut out from the rest of the world. So I think that might be my proudest line right now.
I like that. It's a powerful one too, because it's
Yeah.
again putting away that extremist thinking that there has to be a balance in all things. It's not one or the other, it's
Yeah.
both.
Especially because my own feeling about it is yeah, my family is everything to me. But I mean, I wouldn't say no to making friends or having some, because God made it so that you have family and friends. That is definitely an intentional thing, and He didn't make it that you have to choose 100% one or the other. I like the part about family being everything, but friends not being nothing, because that way I'm not. That it does mean that your family goes above everything. If you feel like you need to, if you feel like you want to, because it is a real feeling that is good, you should have the freedom to have friends in your life. I think I saw one of your posts about your best line. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but it's like the best lines in your book coming at random times. And for me, I have no recollection of when that came to me. It might have been one night when I had to quickly scribble something down while I was half asleep, but it was relatively recently.
Nice. Yeah, I did. I think that was in my last discussion with Brie Martinson, but we get inspiration in the darnest places. What are some of
Yeah.
yours?
For me, sometimes I'll if I'm just hanging around the house, maybe doing some chores or whatever, or even just walking around to try to get my brain into the writer mood, because sometimes I need to take a second away from writing. Basically, 2 main things will happen. One, it will be I just start staring off into space and thinking about one of the characters, and thinking oh, it'd be interesting if this happened to them, or what if what book 7 focused on them or something. Just a couple weeks ago, for my character Rainey, I was just my family was watching the TV, and I was kind of just wandering around, starting to get ideas, and then all of a sudden, in a matter of 5 minutes, I got almost the entire plot of book 5 in my mind, just because I was thinking about my character Rainey. And so I had to quickly write down 10 ideas. And then the other location that I usually get ideas in is probably bed, because when I'm just like in bed, kind of just thinking about the day and starting to fall asleep, inevitably my mind is going to wander to my book and what I want to do next for it. And sometimes if I spend a little too much time thinking, it's just like a chain reaction. Like I get one really good idea, I write it down, and then for the next hour I can't go to sleep because I keep getting like more and more and more and more ideas. And so like the way it works is sometimes I'm like half asleep, like I'm 5 minutes away from falling asleep, but then something comes to mind, so I jump out of bed, throw the covers off, and quickly, I always keep paper near my bed because I get ideas so often at like 9 o'clock and at night. And so I have to quickly jump out and write them down before I forget. Because there have been a couple times where I didn't have paper on me and I completely forgot an idea that I had because I only remember it for like 5 minutes. I hear a lot of authors say ideas come at the absolute most random times, and sometimes you'll never expect it. Like if I'm out of the house doing something and I get an idea, and I know it's a really good one, and I don't have paper or pencil, I like twist my watch around or untie my shoes so that when I go and say, why did I do this? I remember why I did that.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. So like I always have my watch and I twist it around if I get an idea. Or one time I got 3 ideas, so I twisted around my watch and untied both my shoelaces, and it was a hazard keeping that in mind.
I bet.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna have to take a note out of that because, like, I write things everywhere. I have sticky notes all over my house, papers all over my house.
Nice.
Half of my books live in my emails that I email to myself when I'm out and about. But the one place that I don't have anything to write on is near my bed. And yet, like, I literally pulled an all-nighter last night trying to think
Oh,
of this
nice.
new plot line. And yeah, if I had had some paper, that would have been helpful. Probably healthier for my sleep as well, but
probably.
yeah, that is very clever though. Association with movement. A lot of my studies, my collegiate studies, were in humanities, sociology, and a little bit of psychology goes into that. So
yeah,
kind of conditioning yourself to remember things is utterly fascinating to me.
I don't have like, I'm not necessarily like super forgetful or anything, but I don't remember things very well. Like if I'm given instructions to do something and I go and do it, I'll pay too much attention to one part or something and I'll just forget like one little detail that's really crucial. Or like, and sometimes it happens with the things I do every day. It's just like, oh, I completely forgot about that. Obviously I had that in mind when I started writing. So I have like a stack of papers right there full of all the ideas for future books and current books and a couple little random things that I needed to remind myself about one day. So I try to cope with the inevitable ability of forgetting things by keeping as many opportunities to remember them as possible, between untying shoelaces to always having a pencil in my pocket. But the funny thing is that in writing book 2, I had to go and check things in book 1 constantly because, like, I had a news reporter in book 1, and I completely forgot her name in the second book. So I was like going through the pages of the first one trying to find the chapter that I mentioned her in, and then I realized, oh, I didn't even mention her in this book. Looks like I got to make up a character name. Yeah,
that does happen. I literally bought my own book just for the purpose of, for one, for podcasting, for second, another copy just for going back and trying to figure things out that I had left out or needed to tie up in the second book. And the same thing happened to me. There's a murder that happens in the second book, and the original last name was Fraser, which is mentioned one time, just one time in the first book, but that it was one time enough that I could not use it again. So I get it.
Yeah. I remember my main character Theo. Oh, I remembered something.
Better write it down.
Yeah. My main character Theo he has a prosthetic left arm and left leg, which thankfully I have yet to forget about. I'd only incorporated the fact that he had multicolored eyes towards the end of writing the first book. So one of them is brown and one of them is green. But I kept needing to go back and figure out, wait, which side has the green eye, and was it brown or like yellowish, or was it blue or something? And so it's like the main character, the one I'm focusing most about, and I kept forgetting a very crucial feature. Eventually I had it drilled into my mind.
Yeah. Details like that take a lot. I was doing the same. One of my characters, you'll come across her sooner or later. Alma
Yeah.
Morales, one
Yeah.
of her right arm was previously broken, and in my head I'm trying to remember like which arm was it, because she's left-handed, but it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things that little details will constantly, you have to go back as the author and find them. And readers won't always necessarily notice them, but it is
Yeah, not
still important to
always.
us as authors that these things have to line up, because you never know when that one hyper analytical reader is going to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah. One time, I saw an episode of a show that was like one of the characters had just read all of the Lord of the Rings and realized that Samwise Gamgee's birthday was mentioned twice, but they were both different dates. And I was like, that's the one thing, that's one of the many things that an author fears from their readers' feedback.
It is. I was watching an author interview. I'm trying to remember. I think R.R. Morrison was the author. I'll have to recheck
Yeah.
that. But in one of his books, the main character has blue eyes, and then in another book, he has green eyes. And apparently, so many of the readers were upset about that they sent him 50 letters telling him that he either needed to correct the books or pull them off the market. I'm like, geez,
Wow.
excessive. I don't have fans like that. I wouldn't want fans like that, but my goodness.
That's probably good. Yeah. There are definitely some people who would take the time to write the letter.
Yeah, if they get heated enough, which comes to the question, because you and I are kind of in the same position as far as reviews go on our books, that we
Yeah.
have good reviews. So, how do you feel like anticipating when a first negative review pops up?
I've hardly gotten any negative reviews. Like my editor had constructive criticism for my second book, obviously, but that's like, editoring. And so far I haven't gotten any negative ones, but if I come across one that isn't, it's like less of this was good, but you need to work on this, and more of this was bad, what were you thinking? I think the way my mind works is I basically just ignore it. Like I'd analyze it, figure out if it's worth my time, and if it's not, I just try to get my best to keep it out of mind. For the most part, hard criticism, if it's not too personal, it'll just go right over my head because I can't focus on useless negative things too much.
That's
But
fantastic.
not a whole lot of people have reviewed my first book because not a whole lot of people know that it exists yet. But I do usually say, feel free to let me know if there's anything you think I need to work on, or if there's any part of the book that needs improving, because I definitely want to look for improvement, because since I am a teenager writing a science fiction book that's going to be 10 books long, there's going to be a whole lot of room for improvement, and I'd like to see that evolve throughout the series, but I can't do that without help of the readers. So I'll take constructive criticism.
Yes. I think that's a
Yeah.
very important thing for an author, is to have that growth mindset. Too
Yeah.
often there's folks that, I understand it hurts to get criticism. It hurts to, honestly, it hurts to have a negative review in general. Sometimes
It
even when my
can.
beta readers get back to me, I'm like, oh, ouch. But at the end of the day, everything that is said is for us to, like you're saying, take constructively or let it go. And that is what makes us better as authors. If we're not growing, then really, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a really good insight. For my series, I expect there to be a gradual, like, raise in my skill of it. Because, like, my first book is far from perfect. There's a whole lot of room for improvement. I both want to see for myself and think it might be interesting for other people to see how my writing will evolve. And when it starts to get to the point where it's evolving because of the readers, in the acknowledgments, I'm going to say, thank you for helping me to be a better author. I hope I can use the help you gave me to my best abilities to make more stories that are even better than the previous ones.
Being gracious about it is important.
Yeah.
What made you want to be an indie author instead of traditionally published?
Because I didn't have the money for traditional. I researched, sometimes it can be up to $1,000 or something. And I was like, well, considering how my price range is like 200 at most, I'm not so sure if I can take that route. As I had been writing, my dream had kind of been like, I want to be a teen writer. I don't want to have to write something and then wait until I've gotten a whole lot of money from a job far in the future to start publishing it. And so, like when I was getting to the point where I was going to need to publish soon, my dad went and found Amazon K2P, the publishing platform that I think both of us have used.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so since it was free, which was totally in my price range, it just kind of became the thing that I went with. I've been looking into a few other um, indie publishers, like the Barnes and Noble does one, and
Hmm.
the way that works is when you publish, they'll sell your books in stores. So if I can have like my books sold in stores as well as on the internet on Amazon, then that's great. And the fact that it's indie publishing means it's a lot cheaper, so I can actually publish my books when they're ready. Though it does make it harder because it's pretty hard to market an independently published book for some reason. A traditional publisher's gone through a lot, like to consider yours, so they're sometimes I've read sometimes they have built-in marketing systems. Indie authors don't really have that kind of resource.
Yeah, a lot of them don't. Some of us are fortunate enough to get indie agents, which is what I'm trying to do, and I have other friends who are authors that are trying to do the same, but it's
Oh,
it's very
nice.
difficult to get representation to assist you with marketing. Otherwise, there's
Yeah.
scammers out there that are trying right and left to get your money to give you absolutely nothing.
I was very reluctant to do marketing because up until a few months ago, the extent of my knowledge of the internet was Google and YouTube. And so I didn't really know where to start. And so I was like researching, okay, I'm a teenage indie author. How am I supposed to start marketing? And the number one answer was always social media, like Instagram, which is what I ended up going with. I have a page now. I just made it like less than a month ago. And then the number two option was being a part of your school fair because and like I read how there were a few teenage authors who were like the highlight of their school fair because they were like the only published kid in the entire academy. I was like, well, I'm homeschooled, so I don't exactly have that either. But like, if you're in a school and you publish a book, it's going to be a big deal. Pretty much everyone's going to know about it. Chances are you'll be a highlight of the book fair or the school fair. I didn't exactly have that kind of resource, so I guess it's going to end up being a little harder to market myself and my book and
Yeah, marketing is, I think that is the most frustrating part about being an indie author. And while some indie authors, like they hit it and they go running and they have the resources to do that, most of us don't. And it's kind of like you're saying, it really depends on where you are in life, where you are in the country, what resources you have
yeah.
at hand. Otherwise, marketing is just a constant battle. And what worked last year, what worked last month might not work this month or this year. So it's
Yeah, no.
it's a battle.
I kind of did get somewhere in marketing research, and like now I only just started researching marketing extensively like a month ago. And so I guess where I am at it right now is I made an Instagram page and I'm trying to like keep up with it because apparently your post is not going to stay on the internet very long. I kind of looked at it. It feels like a post you make will stay on, people will see it for 2 days, and then nobody's going to find it anymore. A lot of the other authors that I'm following, it kind of looks the same for them. Like there's only ever their most recent stuff in my feed, which I guess makes sense, but it does make it a little hard because you need to constantly be creating more content if you want more people to find you.
Yeah,
And
or
then
recycling.
yeah. Part of me considers like every year to recycle some of my posts or whatever, or just like freshen them up, especially the memes. I got a few funny memes that I
You
made.
do.
Yeah, like I made one that that common meme where it's like the lady grimacing and then kind of considering something. I did that. It's like marketing your book versus just going ahead and writing the next one. That's how I feel about pretty much all the marketing right now.
Yeah, it's very much you capture that very well.
I mean, I'm kind of getting somewhere. Like with the Instagram thing, I've got like 44 followers now, and some of them are other authors like you. You were actually, I think, I don't remember, but I think you were the first author to follow me, so thanks for that.
Oh, yay.
And yeah, and then there were a few. I was looking into in-person book events, like like big book fairs and things.
Hmm.
I was going to go to the biggest one in New England, the New Hampshire Book Fair,
Mm.
except that it will not consider applications from indie authors.
Yeah, that is the
And
puncher.
yeah, so I had to turn that down. But then I did find another pretty good one, Bangor Authors Book Fair, which is in Maine. Like it's only like 45 minutes away from me, actually. It in December, every December, it has a big book fair where it will consider indie authors, and you just gotta like rent a table and sell your books. And it's like I looked at it, it's relatively not complicated. So I'm gonna aim to get there this year and sell my book and its sequel at like a table there. For a local library is gonna, like, when I publish my second book, a local library is going to have me give a little author talk and author visit. I'm starting to get somewhere.
Those are huge steps. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've been trying to find conferences as well, but between the moving that's happening right now, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's on a standstill. But eventually, like I know they have several indie conferences in trying to take care. Las Vegas, California, Florida. My mother-in-law, she's a New York best-selling indie romance author. She's always
Oh,
going to those.
nice.
Yeah, so I kind of have a resource, but we're way
Yeah.
different genres, but she's always going to conferences like that and has all sorts of connections. So really getting your face out there and then networking with other authors is really, to me, the best way to get your
Yeah.
book known.
And yeah, connecting with other authors is definitely another thing that will help. Because, like, I mean, you doing this podcast, that's going to help me dramatically. And I'm also, like, so grateful that you considered and did this for me.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. Like, the author community, at least around, like, the author community should probably, like, we should try to look for ways to support each other and be a little more in a few more events for authors, like, especially around Maine. There aren't any except for that Bangor Authors Book Fair. So I don't know. I have no idea how anyone would go about doing this, but especially for indie authors, the community should definitely be fostered and assisted a little more.
I
But
keep
that's easier
thinking we
said
should
than
form
done.
like some sort of coalition or guild. Because,
Yeah,
like Nebraska, my mother in law, she had the Nebraska Writers Guild. She founded that. So in my head, I'm
nice.
thinking, could I do that for Wyoming? But now I'm leaving Wyoming, so that's not a thing. But I do think that there should be, at least in the US, several groups like that, that indie authors
Yeah,
support each other.
I wouldn't say no to that, especially because, like, it kind of feels like authors, especially like authors in general, but especially indie authors, are a little like a little spread thin. There aren't a whole lot of them around. Though I did actually meet a fellow teen author who published a poetry book called Where Do You Go? And she also used Amazon KDP to do that. So I found that coincident, like a pretty good coincidence, because I was like, what are the number of published teen authors in Maine right now? And what are the odds that we happen to meet?
It is incredible. Bree Barnson, who I last interviewed, we met through a health coaching class. So it's,
Oh,
people,
nice.
they kind of pop up just in the randomest places. And when you find
Yeah.
that connection, it's like, yes, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm not the only one. Because, like, on Instagram, every now and then I go through trying to follow more, like, only clean authors. I only do clean authors, especially Christian ones. And honestly, I kept trying to look up if there were more teen authors, but I've only come across a handful, and most of them are in college.
I would say one of the reasons, like when I first met you and you're like, I'm a 15-year-old author, I was like, holy crap, I need to interview him. Because when I was 15, I
Yeah.
mean, I loved books. I loved writing essays. Mostly I loved writing essays, but it was nowhere in my
Nice.
mind to publish a book. I wasn't like, I was so busy with school, but here you are publishing a book. And I think that's
Yeah.
incredible.
I only started realizing how I think a lot of people, they like writing, but met or at least heard of other kids who like dabble or do a lot in writing, but like haven't published. And so I'm just thinking, what did I do that made me follow this all the way through? I don't like, honestly, I don't know if it was like a pivotal point or if it was just gradual. I don't know. I guess I just really liked my story.
Sometimes there's just a little click in us that brings it out.
Yeah.
Well, as we kind of draw near to the end of the time, do you have any questions for me?
I want to ask what inspired your book, The Lattice Scheme, and how do you think people like me should go about incorporating like the good lessons and truths of the world in maybe not the most obvious way?
The lattice game. So the lattice game was something I never intended to write. In a way, it popped out of the blue, but in another way, it's been a lifelong thing. I've had several repetitive dreams since I was younger, and I always knew that those were going to be something in life. I didn't know if it was going to be a
Oh,
book or a
nice.
piece of art because I'm also an artist. I've always kind of kept them in the back of my head. One day I thought I'd just write them down, and that's kind of where the book started. But mostly, I would say at its very core, I've always had a passion for wanting to share deep, profound observations about humanity, especially regarding the world condition at large, war, peace,
Yeah.
controversial issues, trying to highlight what is good about humanity and what we can individually address to make the world a more peaceful place. So I began my writing like I said, nonfiction. I write a lot of nonfiction philosophy, theology based off
Yeah.
of these observations. And I used to post those on Facebook. And I've had several people at my church tell me, you should write a book. You should write a book. And then one of them one day said, you should write a classic. And I was like, no. And the next week I decided, fine, I'll show them that I can't write a classic. And they were right. I could write the lattice scheme. So mostly it just came inspired with all the things that I've learned throughout my life. And a lot of those things I cover on my podcast, such as growing up in an abusive household, overcoming an eating disorder, living in a foreign country, a third world country, and dealing with health issues. There's so many things that I've experienced that contribute to the book. But as far like as the actual book itself, kind of like you were saying at the beginning, I didn't know the plot. I started writing and I felt like God was just using my hands to weave it. And it's been an incredible journey since. As far as going about putting those truths subtly into a book, that for me is a very delicate process that I've formed over the years as a skill because I do write those nonfiction theological articles. I would say my greatest advice is to take it at a regular basis. Like consider these everyday situations that you're in. If you're in the kitchen talking to your mom and you're having a regular conversation, how do you insert truth? How do you bring up truth? How do you observe her speaking truth to you? Things like that, interactions with your friends. If you're like in a public place watching people, what truths do you observe and how do you observe them? If you can make these connections in real life, then you can write them. And so that's how I kind of go about it. But then also a lot of prayer. I study my scriptures a lot and I just pray to the Lord, like, if you help me understand how I'm supposed to put it in there, I know that I'll be able to do it. And he just kind of brings it to me.
That is an amazing answer. Especially, like, I really like that you said to pray about it and look for it in the normal things. That's like really wise of you.
Well, I operate under the belief that everything denotes that there is a God. And
Yes.
I think especially observing not just nature, but the rough parts of life, if you can see God's hand in your lowest point, even when you can't feel him, that is powerful. And that's the power that needs to be spoken of. But as humans, we stink at articulating things. So learning how to articulate that, I feel like that is one of the best treasures we can gain in this life.
Can I just tell a little bit about, I forgot to mention this earlier. In my book, so I wrote a science fiction that I intend on incorporating a lot of like good truth and just trying to make the world a better place through storytelling. And the thing is that there are a few reasons why I chose science fiction and then why I chose the way I did it. Number one, I'm just the kind of guy who likes science fiction, like the technology and robots and stuff like that. I realized that it's actually like a kind of a controversial theme, I guess. Like with science fiction and AI, for example, because there are definitely a lot of problems with AI in our world, and so I kind of wanted to approach that in a bit of a storytelling and then clever and then inevitably funny way. So for my second book, I made up a character. He's a robot. His name is Roger. His philosophy is that he's great and humans suck, basically. And he thinks he definitely exists. And then his buddy comedy character, Liz, doesn't think that machines can conscious and stuff. And so there's a bit of a tension between the two of them about that. With a lot of science fiction stories, like especially the Hunger Games is one example, they've got a bit of that like a slightly darker, a little more cold feel. Because like it's kind of hard to describe. Like, but one time my mom described science fictions as cold, and I was like, that's actually the feel of a lot of them. Like they've got, I don't know, sometimes it's a bit like the characters are a bit depressed. It's like totally hopeless and stuff. And I'm like, it's a really hard idea to articulate, unfortunately. And then I decided to think there's nothing wrong with those stories. Like they're still really great. There's a lot of good aspects about them, and the world can be a really hard place. You got to explore those themes. But I was looking around and seeing that there weren't a whole lot of science fictions that had more of like Spider-Man vibes. Like it's, you got superheroes, you got bad things happening. Maybe you'll lose people, but inevitably, like the story's a little brighter. And so I couldn't really find that many science fictions that had that feel. Like there are some that come awfully close and some of them that do. And I was just looking around and seeing that there weren't very many. So then I decided, well, I'm going to try to write a story. Like, I saw this thing once. It's like, if you don't see the book on the bookshelf, then write it. And so I kind of took that to heart and wrote what I couldn't find. And I described it once as like, there weren't any, I couldn't find any stories like that out there, so I decided to make one. When I was writing the book, I came up with, it's not really a character, it's more like a character's pet, the laser chicken. It's a chicken that can shoot lasers out of its comb. It was an absolutely out of the blue random idea, but it's like super goofy. But then I realized that's actually a really good symbol, because I wanted my books to have a bit of a quirky, goofy, like kind of humorous feel to them. And so the laser chicken kind of embodies that. But then I also want it to have really compelling stories, and like there's dramatic things that happen. There are character relationships that might be put to the test. Maybe you're like gonna lose someone along the way, and it's like the odds are stacked against them, classic hero against the villain type things, but with a little bit of a brighter feel, a little bit more like witty humor. So I guess I don't quite know the way to wrap it up, but that was a major reason why I decided to write the science fiction that I did.
Yes, I love that. That is a huge part about being an indie author, is that what's out there isn't what we want to be reading per se. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of like you in the sense that I love mystery. I've always loved a mystery, but I also like a little bit of fantasy, and the Lattice Scheme, it mixes those, but then it also mixes in thriller, which I never saw that coming. So it's the beauty about being an indie author is that you can mix those genres, and you can mix all of these different styles in ways that aren't traditionally published, because traditional publishers, they only want what's known, and we're stepping into the unknown.
Yeah, I think I heard that about the traditional publishers, and that's kind of interesting. I guess they don't want to take their chances with something like that. And then kind of circling back to the Keep the Lost Cities inspiration. It was a fantasy series, and fantasy, like, it doesn't have as much as the cold feel that science fiction does typically. And the way that the Keep the Lost Cities was done was it was a little bit of the feel that I want to aim for my books. And then a couple days ago, it occurred to me that my goal is essentially to be the science fiction equivalent of Keeper of Lost Cities.
Yes, that is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent. In the back of my head, like, I want to be the mystery version of Harry Potter. So
nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. I look forward to reading it. I bet it is going to be just like that.
With a couple spelling errors, probably.
If it makes you feel any better, I had to re-edit my book 3 times after publishing, because it turns out that the way I was spelling things, Old English, is just so profoundly incorrect that people couldn't stand it. So
yeah, for school, I'm going through the book Writing and Thinking. The first version of it was published in the 30s, and I'm already seeing a significant difference between that and modern day English, especially because slang did not exist in the 30s.
Not the way it does now, yeah.
No. And like, I don't understand slang at all, because I'm like homeschooled, so I'm not usually around the people talking about it like that. But then I kind of feel kind of funny being a teenager who's like, what are you saying? I'm a little more accustomed to traditional speech.
Speak English, yes.
Yeah.
I completely get it. I don't even know this thing. I have to turn to my college brother all the time and ask him, okay, what does this word mean? And I only graduated 10 years ago, and he's like, you don't know this word? No, it sounds like a shoe. I don't, like, kids just they pick random words out of the dictionary, or they put weird letters together, and apparently that has meaning.
I think there's this recent thing, 67. It's just a number. I'm not sure, but I think everyone's just saying it.
Yeah, I don't get that one either.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't go around shouting 67 or anything, but for me, I guess my personal number is 15, because there was a lot of things happening in my life that involved the number 15. Like my age when I published my book, I had 15 pet chickens for a time that were really special to me. There were a couple that I forgot, but there was a lot of things that involved 15. And I guess this is kind of out of the blue, but in my book series Prophecy, I want to incorporate the number like quite often, just like every now and then it's going to be a significant thing that involves 15 because it's like, and it's partially inspired by that Spider-Verse thing. Like, did you see the Spider-Verse movie?
Love
The
them.
number was like 42. There's like Easter eggs all over the movie that just like 42 in the background. And so I want to do that with my book, like have 15 sprinkled in every now and then as just like a little Easter egg to like how everything started for me.
Absolutely. I think it's important for authors to put a little of their own personal touch in there. So
Yeah,
that is
personal stuff.
fantastic.
There was actually a lot of personal, well, not personal, but there's a lot of personal influence put into my book, especially with the friend group, because like I'm still kind of getting there trying to make friends as I get a little more involved in the world. And at the time, my dream was kind of just to have like a really close knit friend group. And so that it was inevitably why Prophecy is about 5 core characters who are like best friends and stuff. Because I want to say, write your dreams, and that was part of my dream, so I wrote it.
It is important to write your dreams. I guess in my case, the dreams in my book were literally actual dreams. But yeah, write your dreams. Write your dreams, whether they're actual dreams or what you want to see happen in your life, because manifesting that, it not only gives you purpose, but it brings it to happen.
And so I'm on the 5th chapter of your book right now. I just got it a few days ago. And I was reading a part where Azur was like training with Alma, and the way you described the dream was like really interesting, like because dreams are a hard thing to describe because it's like a partially subconscious thing. But the way you described it was like really well articulated, and in my head I realized that I was imagining it all as like if like it were to be like if that scene was an animation or a movie or something, I was imagining that the entire dream was like watercolor because it's like kind of murky, but also like you can kind of make the things out. But like the way you described it just instantly screamed watercolor. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting aspect.
Yes. Wow. I'm having a little hot yay moment. I did it right. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, I do. I have a slightly photographic memory. So when
nice.
I wake up, I write the dreams down and then I edit them in. But if I'm able to describe it as well as you just described back to me, then I feel like I've actually accomplished something as an author. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it's been really interesting reading about dreams because like people dream every night, but I haven't remembered any in a really long time. It might even be years. I don't know. I don't remember. Because like the way I wake up is I start regaining consciousness around 4:30, and then I'm up and at it around 5. But the time that it takes me to gradually wake up into the 5 o'clock hour, I completely forget any dreams that I've had. So it's been really interesting reading about it because I don't really experience that much anymore.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. My husband, he's like you. Like some days he'll wake up and he remembers things, but most of the time he's like, I have no clue what I dreamed. I just know that I did. And I'm like, that's good enough for me. Yeah. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking to you, Benedict. This has been a wonderful conversation. For everybody who views this, be sure to check out Amazon, Benedict's book, Prophecy, and his second book is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, as soon as I get the publisher to stop glitching. That's another thing about indie publishing.
Yeah, there's always those glitches, but yeah, I will definitely put a link to your book in the description of the video for everybody to pick up. And so that will be our episode for this week. And thanks everybody for joining. Please subscribe to help support us, and we hope to see you next time.